All right. Hello and welcome to Come and Chat this morning with myself and Brian. Say good morning, Brian.
Good morning, everybody. Long time no see. Sorry about last weekend, but it was Valentine's Day. We had to take the day off, especially yours truly. But I'm glad you can join us. Don't forget to subscribe, if I can talk right. Subscribe to Salona0156. Join us every single Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Give us a thumbs up. Leave comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us a topic for the next weekend. You know, the whole blah, 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 exaggeration, etc., etc. I'm still waking up. But
Subscribe,
anyway,
comment,
good
like.
morning. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Good morning, good morning. And yes, subscribe, comment, and like. We do have several likes that are coming on there, so we know you guys are listening. We know you're watching, and we appreciate you. And for those of you that have been watching since we started this, we've always had this theme of um, sometimes just letting it go without deciding a topic, and letting spirit just take over and really guide the conversation. Sometimes we have a planned conversation because of the last week's conversation, but what I love is that it all comes together in synchronicity. That's how we work. It's like it's that flow of information, that flow of energy that we allow. Right? We're not forcing anything. We're not trying to make it happen. It's just something that is like in the air, right? It's just like, you get these thoughts and you have all these ideas, and then you hear something that, just completely resonates with that. You kind of vibe with it, right? In the same kind of frequency. Because we're all putting out those frequencies, as we've talked several times. And if you haven't listened, go back and watch those shows. Very interesting conversations. Um, and information that applies to our world today. That's the important thing, because we are in this massive energetic play, and a lot of us are stuck. We don't know what to do. We're going outside and externally for all these answers, which is great, because that gets us asking questions. It gets us not being complacent any longer with what we're being told, but rather feeling that it's just something inside is just growing, and moving us towards recognizing that we're more than this physical body, and that we are all connected in that energy and in that thought. But how does it all work? I mean, we've got so much information, and so many different techniques and ideas, and but we're really floundering when it comes to understanding who we are, what our true history is, what the true origin of our spirit is. How eternal is it? Is it, do we die when we leave here? Is that it? We just lay in the ground till Jesus return, like so many of us are taught, or is there more? Is there something that goes on beyond? And there's it's again laden messages everywhere that we go. And I find it interesting because, for the last, well, this is 2016 already. So for me, for the last 8 years, I've been, actually it's longer, really for maybe the last 10 years, I've been, teaching about psychic abilities, how to see and read auras. And in those teachings, I include sound. I include the fact that we are vibrating and we're in this frequency together. And it's interesting to note that in today's reality, many of us say 420. And a lot of you know what 420 means. Show of hands for those on camera that understand what 420 means. You know what it means. That that's like this terminology for the universal to get high, right? Where did that come from? I started, of course, I'm a researcher. I don't like to just take things at face value. I don't speak things that I'm not sure about. I just don't do it because I don't know. Again, our history is so laden with lies, and it's interesting to note that we are, history is written by the victor. So, how much of it's real, and how much has been left out? And so, anyway, I digress. But anyway, we all know that that 420 frequency is a sign now that, and it's not new though. Okay, the term 420 is actually started in 1971 in a group of high school kids in California that referred to it as getting high. But what's interesting to note is in the late 60s, they were doing a lot of experiments with sound, microwave energy technology. I actually lived on that base in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, um, in the late 60s, and experienced all kind of paranormal phenomena. And now, which I question today, how much of it was real and how much of it was holographic. But again, I digress. Um, this energy movement started then because again they were already harnessing the technology of sound and microwave, which is lasers and vibrational technology that can actually you know, blow away like a bomb. This is what sound can do. This is what energy, microwave technology can do. Just pinpoint and bomb. I believe that Egyptian airplane that was taken down a couple months ago was actually not a bomb on board, but a microjet, technology burst that took it down. This is the kind of technology. But it's interesting to note that it started in the late 60s, early 70s. And at the same time, there was a man by the name of Robert Monroe who was doing all kinds of not just, experiments with sound, but the subconscious. He actually termed the phrase out of body experience with one of the books that he had written. But it's interesting to note that at the same time, in 1971, he started, the Monroe Institute, rather the practices of getting towards, because that was actually started in 74, but in 71, the same energy that he was putting out there was about the megahertz and how those sound waves can, really alter, not just alter, but they can, be used for technology weapons. They can also be used for healing. And he believed that taking this certain sound and putting it out there actually vibrated your energy up and caused you to heal and to have memory of past lives and really who you are. It really gets to the core and the root of things, and that is what the 420 megahertz. And so it's like I just for me it was mind blowing to put it all together. I mean, I know I'm probably not the only one or the first one to do it, and but let's talk about it because that is an energetic novelty for me because it's like this just shows you how the frequencies work, what the letters have their tones that go with them, that you're again we're taught that our thoughts create reality, right? Well, it's not just the thoughts. I mean, we all have all kinds of thoughts that do not happen, do not come true. But and then at the same time, we are stuck in this loop of physical experience, which can alter your perception, your perspective, your thoughts. But it's what we speak. It's that vibration of the sound. So I encourage everyone to like start doing the ohm like we did last show that we were on. We were showing you about the ohm. We're showing you about the AEIOU. It's just incredible that these sound waves, put out the same kind of diagrams and pictures, if you will, that you can see at the same videos that we're going to list on this site. But there's a video that's been on the internet for years that shows you the movement of salt when put sound underneath it and the different pictures and diagrams that it does. The same thing has now been recorded for your brain. So when you're speaking the ohm and the AEIOU, your brain is putting out these same magnificent geometrical shapes, which again are correlated to sounds. Everything we do is sounds. I teach also about the chakras. Each chakra tone has its own individual sound, which is something else you can look here on YouTube about. You can just chakra tones, and then sit there with those tones because you're gonna see that it's the same kind of vibration that you get with the AEIOU and the ohm put together. You're going to feel that within when you start doing those vibrational ohms and speaking it. Okay, again, it's not about creating vision boards. It's not about all the thoughts that you have for yourself, but how you're interacting with the energy around you and how balanced are you in that energy and how much are you aware of the frequencies that are being put out, and that's why you're so attracted to sound. And a lot of people are caught on to that 420 saying. I mean, it took off like wildfire. I mean, for the last 10 years especially, there's like businesses started up with that in their name. because again, it's a vibration. It's like another example of the words that businesses have adapted to get your attention. There's a company here called Wawa, and it's WUWU, and I kept thinking to myself, why Wawa? What is it about this name that just couldn't leave my brain? First of all, once I heard it, and then I started seeing all these stores popping up. There's just a huge convenience store with all these gas stations and inside delis, kind of like the Buc-ee's in Texas. But it's like their name Wawa, and so I looked it up, and sure enough, Wawa is actually like an invitation. It's an invitation to come, to visit, to come within, come inside. I thought, how ingenious, I mean, people are really starting to understand. Here we are in 2016, the energy and the frequency and the vibrations, and putting it all together. So now you're like, well, how do I apply that to my world? Because that's really what it's about: is you getting in touch with the energy around you, and then vibrating in that same frequency, and removing really all the things that you've learned about your thoughts and about how phrases like the root of money, rather the root of all evil is money, or money is the root of all evil, however you say it. We've been saying that for so long. We're speaking this. And then how many times are we just constantly trying to relearn not to have those thoughts about it, not to be self-destructive? We're actually told, that's what we speak to ourselves. Words. The words are vibration. The words are what we're manifesting. And every time that Bryan could be an example for this, he can speak for himself. But anytime that Bryan has a situation, he doesn't just sit there. He'll call me, and we'll start talking about it. And it's like the information will just start passing between the two of us, and then we start, thinking about, not just thinking, but talking about, what's going to happen in the future. And I think it's that voice, because we're always saying what really makes things happen. And it's that voice and that confirmation when two or more come together in that belief and energy, that things actually start happening. And it's like he's starting to see, he sees the pattern. He can, again, speak for himself, but he's seeing the pattern and what it's all about. And that's the key, though, is like getting to understand those tones. Understand 420 is for everybody because it's an actual megahertz that will balance you out and just bring you about in the most energetic way. You can check those out at the MonroeInstitute.org. Again, fascinating to note about Robert is his experiences that he had himself with the energy and how he started transforming his own world and how he had issues at first, like we all do when we start coming into a new idea, where he had relationship issues and, his personal life wasn't what he thought it should be at the time, but he kept going, he kept moving, and doing his thing, and didn't let him stop him because he had an understanding that until he found that vibration, it's kind of like a piano and a tuning fork, right? We all can relate to that. We have to be tuned. We have to be able to, frequently, rather frequent on our frequency, be able to vibrate with one another in order to even be in any kind of relationship. And that's whether it's, with your job, your mate, your animals, everything and anything around you. Just so fascinating. You guys got any questions or comments to make thus far for me? I could go on talking because, trust me, there's a lot of information here that I want to share with you.
No, going back to, there's something that I've been kind of studying this week, and I guess it goes along with what you were kind of saying. You kind of tapped on it a little bit ago, not necessarily with the 420, but thoughts make reality. So the law of attraction has been a big topic for me, for something that I've been subtly researching, because it doesn't work for everybody, right? So law of attraction, you get a lot of people that say, hey, I'm thinking these things, I have these desires, I have these wants, I'm looking into what it is that I'm wanting, and they're putting out those thoughts and they're putting out those desires. But the problem with law of attraction is you're not the only one that's perceiving or that is creating a thought to create a reality. So, how many realities are there? And this is they kind of tap on it a little bit when they talk about quantum physics and the law of attraction. is it's not only your reality that's being affected by law of attraction, it's other people around you. So, how do you control that, and how do you prevent other people's law of attraction from influencing yours? And these things here are starting to become a little more relevant. So when you start talking about the experiments that have happened in the 1960s and 70s and the megahertz, you got to understand that they're actually trying to create machines and devices that can actually affect you, and create a reality for you, or manipulate the ability for you to create or perceive a reality. Um, it's all about perception. That's what it comes down to. And then your perception will come down to your core. Who you are at the core and who you are as a person will directly affect how you create a reality. So law of attraction is a bogus title definition that people have fallen into and used as an excuse, much like they did with karma. And we had that karma conversation not too long ago about how people use karma as a sense of punishment, or a sense of consequence, or being reprimanded for whatever decision or choice that you might have made. Here comes karma. Karma's a bitch. She's gonna get you. Well,
Right.
that's an illusion as well. So when you come into the law of attraction and understand that law of attraction is real to a degree, but the definition that has followed through with it, and the reason why it doesn't work for everybody and only works for the 1%, is because they have a better understanding of what it means to actually control your reality and perceive things. So first step, I guess, with all of this is understanding where your emotions stand at your core, how you react to certain things, and how they emotionally affect you. That's, I think, the number one thing that we all need to focus in on first. Before you start trying to bring materialistic things in with law of attraction, or whatever the hell you want to call it now, uh, focus in on your emotions. Focus on what makes you happy, what makes you angry, what makes you sad, what makes you react. Your reaction is everything, because someone else's reality is affecting you. Okay, so when you can actually take control of your emotions, in essence, the definition of what law of attraction is today can become a little more relevant. But at the same time, understanding that it's not a magic tool. It's not something that just appears because you think it's going to make it. That's not how it works, because believe me, I've been fantasizing and desiring about $14 million for the last 5 years, and I haven't seen a dime of it. So,
Well, we
I've
got
been
to start talking
trying.
about that more. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, I've been trying, and not to saying that I have doubt, because we all have doubt with things, sure, and your doubt can take over and make your perception change and all this blah, blah, blah. It's very, very important that you do take control of your perceptions, on how you perceive certain things and how you perceive certain events, and we tapped on it with karma, like I said. One of the things that hit me before is I can choose to get mad over the fact that I forgot an item at the store, or I can choose to look at it as a blessing. You know what? I probably need to go back to the store, get that item. Maybe I avoided a wreck because forgetting that item made me save 45 seconds in time to get back home. And if I would have left 45 seconds later because I remembered that one item, maybe I would have gotten into a wreck. Or maybe someone needed to come across my path and see a smile, or at least be acknowledged. Everything happens for a spiritual reason, and it's all about perception. So when you click all that together and you start to see how all that kind of starts to intertwine with everything, then you start realizing that your manifestations and perceptions, in essence, is law of attraction, or as I heard on another video, it's a law of who you are. It's who you are, and that's what you're attracting. That's what you can become. So concentrate on who you are and what your desires and beliefs can be, and that will, in essence, tangle up what will actually happen for you in the future, if that's what you're trying to control and perceive. So if you're desiring something that could change who you are by the law of attraction, understand that the universe may not allow that to happen to you, because you are not the person that is actually going to become once you achieve what it is that you're trying to desire or get. So I think, the first thing we need to focus on is perception of emotion, and then perception of reality, perception of materialistic items, And then once you get to that materialistic point, after you've controlled your emotions and everything else, you start to see how your desires for materials start to shift. You know,
Mm.
how much
I,
do you really crave? Do you really crave the money? Do you no? You as like with me, $14 million was what I was trying to law of attract. That was my attraction. That's what I was working for, and it didn't work for me. You know, so let me revert back. Let me perceive what's going on. Why isn't this happening? You know, I'm able to control certain things, but it's on an emotional basis, and who I am at the core, and who I am, and how it works, and how it aligns with myself, and then that's what becomes a reality for me, and that is what starts to influence others around me, and that is powerful. You know, so
totally. And
I
that's
mean,
what
going.
people get
Go
hung
ahead.
up on. They get hung up on what it is that's going on in the world today. But you can't do that because it's like, you can't find a solution by being stuck in the same problem. And if you allow, your emotions, your judgment of everything around you to rule what happens in your world, well, you just that's you're just asking for, the same, thing to repeat over and over and over again. So a lot of times, and good that you brought up karma because I just posted the other day on Facebook, and it's official if it's Facebook official. That I put karma, you're fired. you know, I'm just done, and it's like people are like, oh, but people suffer karma, and people, that blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, it's people's meanings
Yeah.
really of what karma means. Their perception, and if your perception is that you're suffering karma because of something you did in a past life or some choice that you're, word that you used in this life,
Yeah.
until you change the meaning of it, you're going to constantly repeat it.
Well, karma, law of attraction, those particular titles and perceptions that follow through with it have got to shift. People look at karma as the justice of the peace. There's not a board of karma members somewhere in the universe that are ruling justice and sentences and saying you're awarded this or you're punished this. That doesn't happen. That's not realistic. It comes down to a law of attraction type thing, and even that is a blown up, messed up title. They're trying
Right.
to again get you lost in your own self to control something and work on your desires. One of the things about being a spiritual person and a spiritual entity is that self desires is one of the things that need to go away. Self manifestation is something that needs to go away. That is not a pure light worker. That is not a pure spiritual entity. You are one with the universe. You are one with your brothers and sisters. And if you have that true mentality, then self desires and self wants and greeds and selfishness and whatever it is that you want to talk about should not exist within it. Understanding who you are as an entity and how you plug into the universe is important. But you need to get rid of your own self desires and understand that the things that you need will be provided for you in this world. Stop trying to make it happen for yourself. If your thoughts and who you are at the core is meant for you to be whatever it is that you're desiring to be, then it will happen. But otherwise, stop trying to make it, stop trying to force it to happen. The law of attraction is a lie. And that's what most people need to start understanding. It all does come down to perception, and you have the power to decide your emotion when an event occurs. But to actually sit there and say that it's law of attraction or something bad happened to you because you attracted that, that's bullcrap. No, that's not how it works. You did not create something bad to happen to you. If I walk down the stairs and I fall down the steps, that's my fault because of law of attraction? No, it doesn't work that way. You know what? Maybe there was a crack in the steps.
Or it was
Maybe,
new carpet.
or again, a spiritual. Let's turn it into a positive. It's all about perception. Maybe I fell down the steps because I was having a bad thought. And then people say, well, that would be the law of attraction. Or maybe I fell down the steps because I needed to sit there and take in the moment when I got to the bottom of the steps to look up at the sky and be like, what the heck's going on? To see something magical happen, or to understand that there's nature around me, to bring me back into the moment. The things happen for different reasons, and I think it's really important to understand that it's not your fault all the time. And that's what law of attraction teaches, that everything that happens to you was due to your thoughts, and no, thoughts create reality to a degree because it happens to involve your perception of things.
Right.
But
Which is
your
crazy.
desires and your achievements is not due to law of attraction. Your desires and achievements have to do exactly with who you are as a person.
And let's talk about that perception. Most of us, our perception is formed at a very young age, and it's formed by those that are around us and by our own view of our experiences, and typically what we're being told, and then what's actually happening to us conflicting. And so, anyway, that perception that is started young, is what forms, what's really going on in your world, and you're not just what's going on in your world, but how you're viewing it. What your emotion is about it, what your judgment is about it, and the common phrase that hatred is taught. It is not something that we are inbred with, right? So that just gives you an example of things that happen once we are born. And here we are. We're stuck with this perception of these things that have been taught to us. And so when we get out older and we really start thinking about it, especially when you get into school, when you are in high school and in middle school and you're taught about history, it's like it doesn't make sense. I mean, I hated history. Was one of my best subjects, but one of my worst subjects. I could remember dates and things, but I hated it. I hated the history that I was learning, because I'm a, Native American Indian. I knew about my Indian roots, and I knew about the things that had happened to my family, from that side, that perspective. So what I was reading and what they're teaching, just didn't jive. Same thing when I was in school, rather in church. The things that they were teaching and saying, they just didn't jive, and they didn't all jive together. And it's
Hey,
like,
can I interrupt you on that?
yeah.
Because I'm a history buff too. I love history. I was just telling Connie this, that I love history. I like she'll walk out in the living room if I've been out there for a while and she's been taking a nap or whatever. And what do I have it on the History Channel? And
Right.
it's not because okay, I'll give you an example. I was watching the special on the British invasion back in the 1700s when the British was trying to take back over the country and get rid of
The
the
British.
rebels.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw this and I was watching it, one part of the whole thing freaking baffled me because people forget about a special element that was happening at that time. You had the Americans fighting the Brits. The Brits were trying to invade. The Brits supposedly were actually gaining ground over the Americans, but they made George Washington look clumsy, and that was something that kind of mind-boggled me. George Washington, on several events, according to history, George Washington did not win the country by pure strategic power. He won the country by accident. He won the country because Mother Nature stepped in and made it foggy one night to cross the river when he was getting pinned in by the Brits. Fooled the Brits. They didn't know that he was crossing over to the river. Otherwise, him and his army would have perished. In Pennsylvania, the Brits started learning the American way of sniping. Apparently, Americans were the first ones to create snipers, which again is bullcrap. That's not true. Archers were the first snipers back in whatever you want to call it. But anyways, the accuracy of the rifle, a Brit, because he was a gentleman, did not want to shoot George Washington even though he had him in his sights because George Washington's back was turned to him. But had he been shot by that British officer, it would have ended the war and the Brits would have taken over the United States. This is the things that they teach us. George Washington was a clumsy person. The one special element that in history, and this is what boggles me, is the Native Americans' role. Okay, see, the Native Americans didn't pick sides. They didn't pick sides of the Brits. They did not pick sides of the American white people that were here, and that's what people. That's where the history books kind of starts getting a little messed up. The history books would tell you that the Native American tribes that were on the East Coast were being promised that the land would be returned back to them by the British officers if they joined British forces. So they were saying that some tribes were joining the British forces to take over, and the same thing for the American. They realized that the British officers were lying, so they would join the American forces. No, the guys, scrap that. There was three parties at war here, 4 or 5 parties, really. The Native Americans were fighting with each other. The Brits were fighting the Americans. Americans were fighting the Brits. The Indians were fighting both of them. Then they turn around and fight the tribe behind them. It was an all-out war, and the true history of how it all went down is meant to block the truth of what's really happening here.
Right.
And think about it. We were really at war with England just 200 years ago, which hindsight 2020 in history, 200 years is nothing, especially for a country like Britain, like England. You have those countries there. You think that the Queen is going to let go of the fact that her family was embarrassed by American rebels? I don't think so. Why are we allied with that country if they try to take over ours? There's stuff you got to sit there and question the truth and history and the perception of it all. You know?
Well, not only that, you got to ask yourself, where did George Washington's family come from, and how did they come over here? How did they come over here in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, they sent out, as the England did many times,
Right.
hundreds of thousands of soldiers to take over different areas, and the whole history, of course, is written by the victor. So you got to imagine that, and history shows us, even a gossip, a rumor that gets started, by the time it gets to the fifth person, 50% of it isn't real. 50% of it is made up and different. It totally changes the rumor in history. So if you can imagine, every 100 years or so, and if there is a war every year, I mean, we can be testament to that in our world today, that there's a war going on every year. And then the victor of that war is the one who repeats the history of it. 50% of it is mistaken. And so if you want to take that all the way back to how long societies and generations have been here, how much of the history is actually not even a quarter, or an eighth, or whatever, not even
Yeah.
true. So we're
Well,
really basing a lot of our perception on lies and
right.
falsities.
And that's the problem with written history. Okay, that's the problem. Now, when you go on to, if you're privileged to know anybody from the Native American society, and you get to hear stories that have been passed down generation by generation by generation, and understanding the truth and what they know versus what's taught to us in school, it's quite amazing. One of the biggest stories of Columbus was that the tribes that he ran into at that time. I mean, keep in mind, Columbus, you know, was not the first white person to make it to the shores of
I don't
Turtle
know.
Island.
Spaniards were here
But
long
but
before.
the stories will make you see that, and they'll tell you that it's the first time that the tribe has actually touched metal or a metal sword, and that they were naive as to put their hands on it and they drew blood because they touched it the wrong way. No, the Vikings from back in the pre-Jesus times came over here, um, and had metal hats and metal
We have
swords.
evidence of the Knights of Templar being here. The Romans. I mean, even in Africa, there's evidence that the Knights of Templars, Romans, and the what is the Inca,
Yeah,
were in Africa. Even, I mean, there was flight and there was travel happening, long before our history came along.
there's a lot of
Long
bluff.
before.
We got to remember that there's a couple 100,000 years at least of humanity. And within 200,000 years, you really think that we advanced that much within a 300 to 400 year period?
Oh my gosh, no. In
No.
fact, I think we've digressed. We've gone backwards. Actually, our abilities of who we are has just been totally forgotten. We're actually like this civilization of amnesiacs. We have
Yeah.
forgotten completely. And why this brings me up to another point here, that there is someone that is by the name of Michael Tellinger. He is actually someone who's living over in Africa and has been, and helping out the people there for many years. But he's so much more than that. But he is actually doing a show on Gaia TV, and it's GAIA.com. The first two series are free online. This is a paid for site. I pay for it because there is information here that is just mind blowing, and thankfully available. But anyway, the first two series here are free that you can watch, and the name of the series is Hidden Origins. And he takes it all the way back, as far back as our ancient written left history can take it, and just totally blows it out of the water with who we are. And in fact, um, he actually gives a lot of credit to alien technology, for bringing about a lot of the technology that we have today, including what Nikola Tesla designed, and what Edison then took over. And then government took over, and that's why the Tesla information is just now coming out. Um, but again, this is information suppressed. Anytime that there is any kind of information that's going to lead you off of the agenda of control, and then they do away with it. I mean, it's just like the news things you hear in the news today. You'll hear a little piece of news, and then it's just devastating, and then it's gone. It's like, and then it just goes on to the next, and it's just a repeat of the same thing. But in these series, he talks about the sacred sound technology that's been used on this planet for millions of years, and evidence of, by way of what they want to say is like laser technology used to carve out stones. He says it's sound technology. I got a cough.
Well, you know what you need for that cough? You need CBD. Did I say it right? Sav? Anyways, if you don't know what that is, please ask Salona. She will tell you all about it. But anyways, to go back and kind of go with what she's saying, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is, and technology didn't just arrive here in the last 200-300 years. You got to understand that we're on a brink of something here. We got 7 billion people on the planet. This is the most people that we know about being existing at once on planet Earth. These civilizations and humanity have been known to peak and then fall, and then
Yeah.
peak and then fall. And then I was watching this thing. They're talking about Detroit, the manufacturing plants for automotive industry and some of the other manufacturing industries that were there in Detroit. How they haven't been present or working in the last 10 years. Those buildings have been vacant. And just in the last 10 years, nature has already taken over those plants. They've turned into little forests, and trees are growing all over the place, and they're cracking up the foundations. And then they go back and show you the ruins. There's a big difference in the infrastructure and the way that nature has taken over those buildings versus the buildings that were created 10,000 years ago that have been taken over by nature. Nature is having a little bit of a difficult time actually destroying the pyramids and the different ruins that are actually there in South America and in Peru versus Detroit. The trees are tearing that place apart real quick, and it's only been 10 years,
Right.
not 2,000 years. In another 5-10 years, those manufacturing plants, those buildings that were created within our lifetime are going to become rubble and dirt before we're even passed away. And that's amazing if you think about it. So what was the difference in the infrastructure? How intelligent and civilized was it 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 years ago versus today? You know, we sit there and say that they didn't have the electronics. Well, I can guarantee you, if you put your phone in the ground, within the next 20 to 30 years, your phone will be unrecognizable as an electronic device. So we don't know what they had, and there's no evidence to support or refuse the fact that they didn't have that technology back in the day. You
Actually,
know,
the evidence is out there. They are shown in ways that we don't see because, of course, it's being kept from us. One of the ways that Michael talks about is that there are gold mines in Africa, over 74,000 gold mines that they know of to count today. But in these gold mines, they've actually found tunnels and of other, gold mines that are ancient, that are tunneled out like laser technology, that they attribute it to
right,
sound
right.
technology.
Well, that's my point. Is I think it's a little naive of us to and when I say us, I mean as a society to sit here and think because it's not written and because there's no proof that electricity or electronic devices or some kind of technology that might be even greater advanced than what we have right now known to us didn't exist 15, 20,000 years ago is a little naive. Again, just like space. You know, if we actually did have extraterrestrial visitors 20,000 years ago, which I believe we did, um, if we did, I know, how could we have not? But if we did, they brought that technology here and exposed it to us. We're not some primal monkey here,
Oh
that
no.
that doesn't know anything. We are of another planet or something. Who knows? That goes into another conspiracy or whatever hypotheses. But I think the point is with all of this is to understand that there's a lot more at play than what will ever be told to us.
Oh, most definitely.
And here's a little look into the future too. Have you been watching the Discovery Channel and seeing your news feed on your Facebook page and certain things that pop up on internet news, um, even just in CNN, and they're talking about space. Space has become a big topic here. China is developing this mega telescope. There's something happening galactically within our own species on this planet that is getting ready to change the way we know things. There is something getting ready to happen, and I don't know what it is. I think we all kind of feel it. We're all starting to see the warning signs. They're slowly letting us know that there's some exposure getting ready to happen.
Right.
They got this big telescope in space. They say they're getting ready to see the first lights of the universe. They don't even know what that means when they say that. I don't know what they mean when they say that. But there's a bunch of exposure getting ready to happen, and I really do think we're getting ready to enter a Star Wars type of phase where things as we know it are going to change, and I don't know if it's good or bad. But they are getting ready. They're warning us. They're telling us that something's getting ready to happen. Look up that telescope that I'm talking about in China.
I,
This
I already read about it. It's
it,
massive. They had to dislocate 10,000 people who
yeah,
lived in the area because of the energy
yeah,
that it's
relocate
going
them.
to put out. They had to relocate 10,000 people because
Yeah,
of this massive satellite that they're building. Array. It's not a,
that's wild. I
yeah.
mean, so is it a telescope or is it a spaceship?
It's a
Is it,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, or is it a
you know,
platform?
or
What's fixing to land?
exactly,
Um,
is something getting ready to land there? There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and this stuff isn't conspiracy. This is in the
yeah,
news.
yeah,
What happened to that news report 3 months ago? I think it was 3 months ago, where they said that they found this sun in a different universe, obviously, 'cause it's not our sun. They found a sun with this stuff that was around it like a ring, but it appeared to be artificially developed, not developed by nature. It did not look like natural occurrence. It was something around a sun, as if it was harvesting the energy around the sun. They reported on this for about a week in our actual
right,
media. My local
right.
news station was talking about it. CNN was talking about it. Fox News. Then it disappeared. The
Yeah,
report was never followed up on. It was just gone.
that's
And
how it
now
works.
nobody talks about it, and everybody. It was just there, and then boom, it's gone.
They tell
It's
you what's going on. They have to tell you
yeah,
what's happened, but they do it in such a way, and then they take it
it's
away, and
subtle,
then they replace it by some other stuff.
right?
I mean,
Well,
it's
it's subtle, and then there's only going to be a small percentage of people that actually absorb that information. And I guess we can consider ourselves a part of that because we're talking about it right now. But nobody else I know is talking about it, and there's also that large amount of people that have already put it in their mindset and they laugh at it and say, no, whatever, it's nothing, it's just a misunderstanding. We're the only people out there. The universe is dead. No,
right.
it's not dead. It's not dead at all. I was watching this thing last night about NASA. It was on the Discovery Channel, and one of the theories that they have is life as we know it on this planet has actually come from different comets and different things hitting this planet and bringing seeds and other things along with it. Well, they experimented. They actually left Earth seeds, plants, tomato plants, different seeds. They put it in space for about 10 years, 6 to 10 years, exposed to the space elements, to the material in space, brought it back to Earth, planted it in our soil, and they grew like they had never left the planet.
Hmm.
So, that's cool when you think about it because you start to realize that people think that space is inhabitable. We
Yeah,
are in space. Our
yeah,
planet is in space. We are inhabiting
exactly.
space right now. So how is it not possible that life is not existing somehow somewhere on another planet? How do we know that the existence of the human race wasn't brought here on spaceships because the planet that our species was on before ended up being, sucked dry by the resources, or the sun was getting ready to explode, and our species was advanced enough to know that it was time to go. And then we come here, they leave us alone. We haven't been babysitted for a while, and now we're dumbed down, and we're just stuck, learning our environment, learning our resources, basing everything on evolution, forgetting that there's so many different elements here.
Right.
The Celestial Prophecy, that book, stated in there, and there's got to be a little bit of truth in this, that Earth is somewhat of a library of the universe. Because this is a perfect habitable planet for most living things, whether it's close to the core of the Earth or in the ocean or on land, absorbing the oxygen that is free to everybody here. This is a very fertile planet, so it's hard not to think that so many different things that we know to be earthly are actually alien, and that's an amazing hypothesis to think about too. And considering that they were able to put seeds in the universe and then bring them back and then plant them again, don't sit there and think that they haven't been shooting that stuff over to Mars.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
They're
And not
growing
only that,
structures.
the same kind of structures that you're talking about, they found somewhere else. They found them here as well, around
Yeah.
Saturn.
Well, I think that there are many different species, intelligent or not, that
Yes.
are outside this planet, and and I think that
And
we
visiting this planet.
ourselves, and visiting and intelligent, and I think we ourselves are maybe not necessarily from Earth. Everybody says that the Earth elements are within us. Absolutely, the universal elements are within the Earth. So, which one is it? Is it the universal elements, the Earth elements? Are they one of the same? Are they not different? We have so many different patriotic. In fact, the patriotic table. Let's bring this in. I'm going a million miles a second here. They
Right.
added new elements to the patriotic table. They added another four. I think it was 3 or 4 elements to the patriotic table just this past year.
Mm,
In 2015, the patriotic table grew.
yeah. Where'd
Like
that come
come
from?
on, guys.
Yeah, where'd
There's
that come from?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
Mhm.
crazy to think about, and I start to get a headache after a while because I get lost, and then I start thinking about Einstein's theory, and then I start thinking about the law of physics, and how things really work, and then now they're talking about how space can bend, and then you got black holes, and then you got planets growing and disappearing, and then you got all this craziness to think about, and then when you look into a telescope and you see 2005 galaxies within one view, one angle of, it's too much. It's too
Yeah.
much. My head hurts.
It is a lot, and it's just a shame that, we're not taught from birth on all these wonderful, amazing things and how we apply ourselves to that energy and, how we're all connected in that vibration.
Yeah.
It needs to be taught, though. That's why I love that our conversations go this way. And we always go full circle. Because again, that's that vibration, that energy that I think is what's going to connect us. And for those of you that don't know, again, go to the MonroeInstitute.org. Listen to the Hemi Sync. Hemi Sync means it is syncing, and, kind of like you know, um, what's it called when you sync your computer browser to whatever you're doing? It's syncing your brain hemispheres, balancing out your energy. And it certainly gives you a different perspective when you look at things that way. And, everyone wonders why we're so enthralled with, all these things that are going on outside of this universe, but it also has sound in it. I actually have a recording that NASA did, probably back in the 70s or 80s, about the sounds of the universe. And there is sound out there as well. It's not just that they're finding that their energy and their gravitational pulls and all these massive things happening out there, but it is also a sound. And again, the sounds of the chakras. Just putting it all together for you, and encouraging you to go and check out all these chakra tones. And I define you to not let it make you feel better. And then again with the hemisync and speaking, humming along with it, allowing your vibration to just, go up and down with it and to really just get in that same pattern. It's all musical. I think that everyone says that mathematics is the universal language, but if you think about it, it's music, because music can bring that mathematic into a form. And so sound. I think instead of saying love and light, we've come up with the new, much sacred sound to you. Because that's what it's going to be about in the future. That's what's going to change things and get your perspective going on a different vibe, taking you away from all the stories that you've been told, all the lies that you've been told, the history that we've repeated because of those lies, and then see things as cause and effect, and how now your sacred sound is going to be put out there in that universe, and that's what's going to be shaping and forming your experiences. Again, it's not just you that's trying to create a reality. But it's you that's going to understand that by getting your vibration in sync with that reality is what's going to take to pull it all together for you. Just like these conversations that we have with Common Chat. We always go off on these different areas and all this different information comes out, but it also comes back to synchronicity and full circle of where we need to go next. So let's just go ahead and say goodbye.
As she coughs.
As I cough.
Sorry, I didn't save her.
Sorry.
You guys got to see her coughing. But yeah, anyways, it's been again another great conversation. And I know I entered the conversation this way, so I'm going to end it the same way. But please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be on every Sunday, with the exception of technical difficulties or holidays, special
Right.
events. Those we'll have to postpone. But keep on top of the YouTube channel. Uh, my mother here does a really good job at keeping track and scheduling the shows in advance. So this way you know to plan to be a part of it if you wish to. Or you could always look back and watch like everyone else is doing. And I'm proud to say that I'm really happy to see the show here actually grow. We're gaining subscribers, we're gaining viewers, we're catching people's attention. We plan to have special guests. We will be inviting certain people to actually participate in our conversations, bring up certain things that are happening in their areas. It's something that we want to continue to grow. And remember that this isn't about Solona and myself. This is about you.
Yeah.
This is about what's going on in your world, what's going on in the world that we all live in together. And this is the platform we can use it on. So remember to subscribe to Solona0156.
Mhm.
Give us a thumbs up, like the page, like the videos, and tell your friends about it. And hopefully we'll see you next Sunday.
And let me say real quick, Bree, did you want to add anything? Like, did you want to come on and say anything this Bree to what we've been talking about? Because this, again, we just got done saying it's all about you. All right, no, thank you. Thought I'd put it out there anyway. All right, then. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and much sacred sound to you.